Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
What's going on, you basketball fanatics? Welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Melanoff. With me is the Draymond Green to my Kevin Durant. I give you Mark Souza.
Ooh, hot fire.
Yes, because I say that because that is going to be one of our main topics for today. In the first segment, we will be talking about the Warriors drama, the Kevin Durant, Draymond Green issues that have really been dealing with Warriors drama, and the fans of other teams love it. But we also will be talking about all the games that have happened the last couple of days, as well as Jimmy Butler's debut as a 76er. And we'll talk about some other stuff along the way as long as it's basketball related. So, we'll move on right into Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. As you may already know, they kind of had a little scruffle the other day on the bench. Mm-hmm. And basically, Draymond Green got a rebound when they were playing the Clippers in front of Durant. Durant got upset. Draymond was being very reckless with the ball and kind of just didn't even get a chance to shoot the ball at the end of the game. It really cost their team the game, to be honest. That was Draymond's fault. My opinion. And Durant took exception to that. And then they got into a scruffle, and DeMarcus Cousins was the one that really was peacemaker. That's bad when he's the peacemaker because he's technical foul king of the world. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on this little outburst these two had?
Yeah, I mean, when stuff happens on the court between competitive players, I mean, obviously things happen. Arguments happen, things are said, it's the heat of the moment. The Warriors wouldn't be great if they didn't have competitive attitudes and personalities, right? Like, that sparks them, that fuels them to be as good as they are. And we know with Draymond especially, he's a fiery character. He's a guy who's, been in trouble with the NBA in terms of fouls and letting his emotions get the better of him. He's gotten technical fouls. He has a reputation. He has a reputation for being that kind of fiery individual. But, it also is a big reason why he's so good. And we saw tensions escalate the other night. Like you mentioned, him and Draymond get into it off the court in the locker room. Some witnesses say it was maybe the most volatile episode yet in this Warriors run in their dynasty, right? So, I'm not sure what happened. It was obviously off camera. We don't know what was said. We don't know if it got physical or how emotional it got, but it sounds like it is something that was detrimental because the Warriors suspend Draymond Green. They suspended him for one game, so he stayed home, and Durant was not suspended, so whatever happened.
Draymond was quoted in saying, "Who the F are you talking to? Like, who do you know who you're talking to? Mm-hmm. Like, as in Green's a bigger star than Durant or more important than Durant," which I don't believe is true. Mm-hmm. So I think Green has just been more of he's been a big problem in my opinion. He's not he's not the most humble guy in the world, is he?
I don't know about that. That's kind of hard to say. I mean, why would you say humble?
I don't know. He's just kind of he's always getting under people's skin. So
yeah, that's true.
I don't know what word to use. Maybe humble's not the right word, but he's just a little disrespectful, I would say, in my opinion.
Yeah, but we also don't know like what is said sometimes out off the court or behind closed doors. I mean, we know that Draymond was basically the catalyst to bring Durant to the team. It was Draymond who was the biggest voice of the core of that Warriors squad that really wanted Durant to join the team. So, when you say when you look at it, I mean, I think Draymond Green is pretty humble as in terms of he knows his role on the team and like kind of where he fits in, what he does well. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's some tension there and things have soured a little bit. A lot of people say that it's because of Kevin Durant's upcoming free agency, his impending free agency. And maybe he's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a different situation. It's a weird situation because everyone's like, "Oh, Durant, they're gonna win championships for years to come," and now people are like, "Well, he's not gonna last another season." And so this is a very quick turn of events. Maybe the social media, maybe Twitter and Facebook are eating this up. Maybe they're overreacting to this. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But right now, this doesn't really make sense of why Draymond and Kevin Durant are having this little feud right now. And right now, without Durant, I know this team's still a title contender, obviously, but they wouldn't be as good as they are right now. Like, they would not be as, unfairly dominant.
Right. I think the frustration kind of is boiling over with the Warriors because a lot of the articles that have been written about them recently is Durant's impending free agency, and I think that's looming over the team, and I think that's kind of taking some of the spotlight off of how great they are and how this season is going for them. And I think a guy like Draymond Green is taking a little bit of exception to that. He may not say it publicly, and I don't expect him to, but at the same time, you got to think like, hey, he might not be the only one in that locker room that's a little bit frustrated by, I guess, the conversation surrounding Durant, because Durant hasn't done anything to stop the rumors. He hasn't done anything from changing the narrative. He hasn't said like, hey, I'm going to be a Warrior. I want to be a Warrior. You know what I mean, Jeff? Like, he hasn't said like, I want to be here forever or I want to be here for the next few years. He has been very quiet, which leads to speculation.
Speculation as in he might not be a Warrior for long, as in like we could see him out the door.
Yeah, I mean, he's a free agent, so we could see him in LA next year. We could see him in New York. We've heard the rumors of where he could go, and most of these rumors say that he's leaving. I mean, again, we haven't heard him say... But those are just rumors.
You can't really trust rumors because rumors are rumors and they're not facts. They're rumors.
Right, but if a player... Normally a player will say, no, that's BS, right? Like, that's... No. But Durant... I think we can have an honest conversation about him and say, it seems like he doesn't really know what he wants to do with his future, and that's okay. That's okay. He doesn't have to know today where he'll play next year, but he hasn't done enough, in my opinion, to kind of stop that conversation like he should.
And again, it's one of those things where he should not, I wouldn't be worried if I was him, because I'm pretty sure any team would offer him a lot more than what the Warriors would, because they have other guys to worry about. No?
Well, the Warriors can keep him. I mean, they can. It's all about what Durant wants to do. If he wants to go do his own thing, if he wants to join LeBron, I mean, he'll definitely have options, Jeff. I mean, I think we both know that. Like, he's going to get a max deal from someone, like, for sure. So, but what does he want to do? We'll find out. But again, I think he deserves a lot of the blame here. I think Kevin Durant deserves a lot of the blame.
Yes, he's unnecessarily snapping at Durant because he's the one that took the ball from Durant during the rebound, because Durant didn't even move and he had the rebound. And then all of a sudden Durant takes it, dribbles very erratically up the court, and then loses the ball in like triple coverage. I don't know what he was trying to prove, but obviously it was a very dumb decision because it eventually lost him the game. So I don't know what he was trying to think.
Do you think that it's a coincidence that this happened when Curry wasn't on the court? Like, he wasn't with the team because he's been hurt. Like, Curry is like that calming, deferential type of superstar where he lets players have the spotlight, but he's also a guy that calms his teammates down. He's the calming voice in a locker room full of loud players. So do you think that has something to do with it? Like, if Curry was there that night, maybe this doesn't blow over?
It might not blow out of proportion like it is now, but I still think it would happen. Maybe not maybe not as imploding as it was, but it would still be a problem.
Mm-hmm. So then we find out that Curry actually visited Draymond during the game the other night where Draymond was suspended. And Curry visited him at home because Curry's hurt, so he's not on the bench right now. What do you think about that? What do you think about Curry stopping in, talk to Draymond about it?
I think it's more the lines of get your act together. We got a championship to retain.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the lines of like, you can't act like that. You can't be this. You can't be this martyr. You can't be this. What's the word I'm looking for? You can't be this anti-establishment type guy.
Mm-hmm. Or do you think that the players actually... I actually might see it the other way. I actually think maybe the players all feel like Draymond, but Draymond's the one that has the guts to say it to Kevin Durant. That's kind of how I see it. What do you
think that Draymond is saying what everyone else is saying about Durant, that he's not like...
I think that the team is frustrated by the narrative of the Warriors, which is all about Kevin Durant and where will he play next. I really do. And Draymond, as you and I both know, he's the one guy that's not afraid to just say it. Curry might be afraid to say it. Thompson might not want to be involved. Thompson also has his free agency coming up too. So, with that being said, maybe Draymond was speaking for the people. What do you think about that?
He was speaking for the people.
Yeah, for his teammates and the fans of the Warriors. A lot of people are not happy with Kevin Durant. I
think they're being a little greedy, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Like, you have one of the best players in the NBA. You're winning games. The fans, I'm looking at the fans' perspective. Why are you upset at him?
Because of his impending free agency and how a lot of people don't feel like he's all in right now on the Warriors. Like, they think that he's looking ahead.
You're still going to be good in the long run, so I really don't understand why. Just enjoy why you still have him. Because he's going to be a hot commodity. He's going to get offered a lot of money. And you had him already for 2 years, won back-to-back titles. You might win you're probably going to win a three-peat. Just enjoy him while you have him, because there's a lot of other teams, like 80% of the teams in the NBA can't be fortunate enough to have guys like Durant and Curry on the same team. So that's why I'm just saying maybe not be as greedy. Do you see what I'm getting at?
I mean,
enjoy the high while it's here.
I see what you're saying, but it kind of sounds like you're sounding like someone who maybe roots for a team that doesn't win. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't care about the NBA. Or no, okay, that's the wrong way of phrasing it. I'm not a fan of a particular team. I'm just saying that there's a certain fan base in where you get what's the word? The greedy. Well, I'm trying to think of spoiled. That's the word. You get spoiled. And you're looking for a reason to complain. Fans love to complain. We love to complain. That makes the show better. See what I'm getting at? I'm getting at the fact that I think they're trying
there's drama,
there's drama, but I think there's a little more drama that the fans think there is, rather than like this might be just a little outburst.
Maybe, but how often do we see this happen with other teams?
And in Durant's defense, afraid to see, you got to think about it, but you want your stock to rise up even higher, so why not play at an MVP level and get even more money? It's only going to benefit the team this season that he's looking for free agency, because he has to play well to be a free agent.
I mean, yeah, he's going to get a max deal by somebody. I don't think he can. He doesn't have to play like at peak Durant to get that. I think it's pretty solidified that he'll get whatever money that is available.
But he can get even. I'm just saying he can get like. He could get more.
Well, there's a limit. So.
I know. You know what I mean. I'm just saying he could get. Like maybe the Warriors will offer him a lot more money. You know what I mean? Like even the Warriors will offer him a max deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's gonna get 20 teams give him a max deal. So we'll see. The Warriors,
every team in the NBA will give him.
Yeah, the Warriors included. So, anyways, it sounds like Kevin Durant's brother weighed in on the situation on his Instagram story. It's no longer there, but the screenshots. Kevin Durant's brother says, "True colors, ain't hard to see when someone is mad. It's so much more clear now, LOL. Instead of competing with what's already written, just follow along before the greatness is done, rubbing off on you and people see you for what you really are. Ouch.
I wonder who that was after.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty, I think it's pretty obvious who he was talking about. Talking about Draymond Green maybe being a little overrated because of the players around him. That's what it sounds like to me. That's interesting. If you're Kevin Durant, do you tell your brother to be quiet?
Yes, I would. If I'm an NBA star, if I'm a star in any professional league and my brother is talking smack to my teammates or to anyone, I'll be like,
right,
dude, shut your mouth. Let me handle this. You can't add fuel to this fire. You're making this worse on me.
Yeah, big time. You don't want. That's the thing that about social media is that parents like moms and dads and brothers and sisters, they get involved with what's going on, and you don't want that to happen, man. Like, that must be frustrating because you're already dealing with the media, you're dealing with the drama, and then it adds fuel to the fire. So it can't be good.
Every time a sibling says their piece about whatever's happening with their brother, it's never good.
Right.
It's always an issue, and you're always like, and the brother is always like, you're an idiot. You know, like always like, and he's making him get thrashed on Twitter, and he's making it worse. So, I've never honestly condoned brothers being defensive about their brothers and talking smack about another NBA player.
So to wrap this thing up here, do you think this is a big deal? Do you think that this actually could affect the Warriors on the court performance this year?
No. Nothing will.
Do you think that it's basically just fans from other teams hoping that this?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Like everybody's like, yay! Like keep fighting.
100%.
Give the rest of the NBA a chance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think all the Warriors could actually hate each other and they'd still win a championship this year. I wouldn't put that past them at all. So they're just too good. You talked about a guy like DeMarcus Cousins. He hasn't even played yet. And the Warriors are unstoppable.
He's not playing for a while either.
Yeah, they'll just add him to the mix, and gee, what a terrible fifth man to have, right? So
yeah.
All right, let's go to a break. When we come
Sure.
back, we have a lot of NBA action to talk about. We have Jimmy Butler. Minnesota played their first game without him. The Sixers played their first game with them. We had an insane blowout in the NBA last night from an unlikely source. We'll talk about that when we return.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I hope you enjoyed that little beat streak we got there for you. We just finished talking about the Kevin Durant, Draymond Green feud, ?
Draymond Durant drama.
Yeah. And now we're moving on to the games that have happened in the last couple of days. Most notably, in my opinion, is the Jazz got their rear ends handed to them by the Dallas Mavericks by 50 points.
Yeah, what's that all about?
50. 5-0. Half a century.
Who saw that coming? Who saw the Mavericks beating the Utah Jazz by 50 points?
The Mavericks did? Maybe
Yeah, I
not
don't
even
think
that.
so. I bet their friends were pleasantly surprised. So, all right, let's dive into
And it was
it.
exactly 50, too, so that's funny.
Let's dive into it. What does the box score say?
Well, Donovan Mitchell, the star player, quote-unquote, for the Jazz. I guess he is the star player, but he
Sure.
wasn't very a star today. That game yesterday, 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, that's it. Gobert, the center, who's been playing actually pretty decently, had 10 points with 10 rebounds. So, again, a double-double, but it's barely a double-double. They only had 3 guys with 10 or more points.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Rubio, Donovan Mitchell, and Gobert. And the rest had like 5, these are the other guys' points. 8 points, 8 points, 5 points, 5 points, 3 points, 5 points, 2 points, 1 point.
Yeah, they shot 31%, so
Yeah.
not very many people
And then
scoring.
you look at the Maverick side, there's not a guy that had 45 points or something. Barnes had 19, Doncic had 13, Jordan had 4 points with 10 rebounds, Smith Jr. had 7 points and 4 rebounds, Matthews had 9 points and 2 rebounds, Powell off the bench had 13 points and 5 rebounds and 4 assists.
So you're saying it was mixed. They
Yes.
had a lot of contribution. Okay, so
Tons.
the Jazz shoot 31%. The Mavericks shoot 58%.
12 three-pointers also.
42% from 3 was Dallas. And then 17% from 3 was Utah. So there you go. That pretty much says the story right there. 6 of 35 for Utah from beyond the arc. And you mentioned Donovan Mitchell. 10 points. Very weird game. He only shot the ball 9 times. You expect him to shoot the ball at least 15, 16, 17 times.
28
Yeah, I mean, you could see it happening. He is their best scorer. So
is their best player.
yeah, Gobert might be their best player, but he's a different player. He's not an offensive. He's not a scorer. He can score points. He can get those inside points, but yeah, different player, defensive minded. So let's talk about the Jazz for a minute. I think both of us had them pretty high in our preseason predictions. I had them as the number 2 seed.
I had them at number 5, if I remember correctly.
So are our opinions different now? They're 7 and 7.
100%.
All right. So what do you
I'm
see
saying
now?
they're barely making the playoffs, 8, 7 seed, maybe 6.
Currently, they're outside of the playoffs, but I could see it. Yeah, I mean, they're still a good team.
This team is not the same as it was last year. There's a different feel about them.
Yeah, they're not the same. They've had some good wins recently. They beat the Celtics, and they beat the Grizzlies just here in the last week, but it does feel like something is different. It feels like defensively they're not as good as they were last year, and we know that their calling card was defensively last year. So they were so good because they defended very well. If they're not going to defend well, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, really. I mean, they might, but in the NBA, if you're not a dominant scoring team, you have to be a very dominant defensive team. You can't.
And they're neither right now.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens. They're 7 and 7. It's still early in the year, but again, you don't want to get too far behind,
Especially in the Western Conference.
and especially in the Northwest Division. They're now 4th. They're behind Portland, Denver, and Oklahoma City, and Minnesota is just 1 win behind them in the standings. So they're pretty close to being at the bottom of their division rather than at the top like they were last season. So guess we'll see
Yeah.
what happens here. They have some interesting games coming up, but again, that Western Conference, not too many easy stretches on the schedule. So why don't we move on to another game that happened last night. The Los Angeles Lakers, they get what I think might be their best win of the season. They defeat Portland last night. A very impressive win, 126-117, although Rajon Rondo breaks his hand last night. So that is an interesting piece of news, as he will miss about a month. Sounds like he'll be anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks that he'll be out recovering with his broken hand. He broke it getting on the floor last night for a loose ball. So
Hit the floor. The whole crowd was looking at her. She hit the floor.
the biggest story yesterday, other than that was LeBron scores 44 and he passes Wilt Chamberlain to go to 5th.
I believe 44 is his season high.
Yes, season high, Lakers high. Yep. So He moves into 5th place in the record books. Talk to me about, let's start off with the game. Was that the most impressive win of the year for the Lakers?
Yeah, the season started off obviously disappointing for them, no question about it. But it's not how you start; it's how you finish.
They're now 8-6. So, but was this the most impressive win for them this year so far?
Yeah, it has to be.
Yes. Okay.
The 44 for LeBron really shows it. But I'm just trying to point out, it doesn't really matter how they're playing right now because they start off sloppy. This is their best game so far, and I'm just saying it's not looking good, all things considered, because of how sloppy they played at the beginning of the season. But it's how you finish.
Mm-hmm.
And if they finish off how they played today at the end of the season, then they'll be fine. But they need to keep this momentum going.
So LeBron gets 44, 10 rebounds. He's 1 assist shy of a triple-double. Brandon Ingram pitches in with 17 points. McGee has 20 points. Lonzo Ball, 11 points, 4 of 11 shooting. He was 3 of 5 from 3, 6 boards, 3 assists. His role will have to increase now with Rondo out. Do you think that Rondo's injury will be positive for the Lakers, or do you think that this actually sets them back?
I think Lonzo's a good replacement for him. I think they'll be fine.
Okay. But what about the overall depth? Like, who takes over point guard duties when Lonzo's not in the game?
Well, LeBron's basically takes the ball up anyway, so probably him.
Yeah, probably so. So we'll see how they can adjust and move on the fly. Rondo, he might not be the same player as he was before, but he is a player that knows how to run an offense very efficiently. He's a calming force out there for his teammates. So I guess we'll see if Lonzo can improve on his rookie season. He's had a tough go so far this year as he's played second fiddle to Rajon Rondo. He's averaging 8 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So I expect those numbers obviously to go up with more minutes now. He played 32 last night, so I think we'll see him playing at about that, maybe 32 to 35 a game. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how their rotation changes. So the Lakers are now 8-6. They seem to be on track. What about Portland, though? Are you impressed with their start?
Absolutely. Double-digit wins already. Like, only very few teams are in that level they are, and Damian Lillard is playing at the MVP-like level, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. They have some easier games coming up, too. They do play the Timberwolves, the Wizards, and the Knicks in their next 3. So they have a chance to really bounce back from this quickly. So,
yes.
Let's talk about another game that happened last night. Very interesting result. Did you see that the Spurs, they got crushed? They got absolutely crushed by the Phoenix Suns. 116-96. Are you surprised by this?
Yeah, but it's been like they're in a slump though.
Mm-hmm.
This loss really just proves they're in a really bad slump, and I think every team in the NBA at one point or other is in a slump, and that's just what they're in right now. And I can't really explain. Like they lost to the Kings the other day, they lost to the Suns yesterday, and they haven't been playing well. Like Marcus Aldridge only had 6 points, 12 rebounds. That's not his level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 of 12 shooting.
Yeah, and DeMar DeRozan, 24 points is not his best. We know he could do better.
Yeah, that's a good game though. I mean, 24 is a good game.
But he went 7 of 15. Yeah, that's good, but no threes, which seems unlikely of him. With 5 rebounds, 4 assists.
He was really the only one who actually showed up, though, last night for him.
White also had 16 points to his credit. But, I don't know, it just feels like the Spurs are in this weird slump. And DeAndre Ayton had a great game, the first overall pick, 17 points, 10 rebounds.
Yeah, he had a good game. And Warren for Phoenix, 27 points, 17 shots. That's pretty good for him. It's just weird to lose to the Suns by 20 points. Even though it was at Phoenix and the Spurs did rest Rudy Gay, it's eye-opening. It's eye-opening for me. So the the Spurs are now 7-6. From what you've seen so far in the first 13 games, are they still a playoff team for you, or are they outside looking in?
Barely making it, I feel like. Like, they'll make it, but it won't be as dominant as they have been in the past.
Yeah, I had them missing the playoffs. I was surprised that they started off so hot, but I don't know if this team can be good the whole season. I don't know. I feel like they will take steps back just because they're not the same team they were before. Different personnel. Injuries have hurt this team. I just don't see them being able... I don't see Aldridge, DeRozan, and Rudy Gay doing it every single game. Enough times, at least, to make the playoffs. They certainly could, but like you said, maybe the 7th seed, 8th seed, or maybe the 9th or 10th, and they're on the outside looking in. But what do you say we go to a quick break? We come back, we'll cover Jimmy Butler's first game, Minnesota's first game without Jimmy Butler, the other action in the NBA. We'll also talk about that crazy, crazy college basketball story where the cheap shot happened for Fitchburg State. We'll talk about that.
We have plenty to talk about. We'll be right back right after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We are recapping on the games that have happened the last few days. And we're going to talk mainly about the debut of Jimmy Butler as a 76er in their loss to the Orlando Magic, 111-106. Jimmy Butler with 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists in his debut. But it was really Riddick who had the best game with 22 points in his own right. But also Joel Embiid had a great game, 19 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists for the big man. But it wasn't enough as, a 30-point effort by Vucevic, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Gordon had a good game himself, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. It was a good effort for Terrence Ross with the game winner, or the game sealer, I guess you can say, at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just showed maybe the 76ers maybe need some work chemistry-wise. Like, they were coming into this game with questions about the locker room and the mentality of everybody with Butler in there. So, and it kind of showed that they need some work to do still.
Yeah, it's the first game, so I mean, it is what it is. I thought they played relatively well. The Magic have had some good games this year. They look like a more competitive team than the team we saw last season. So, with that being said, I think the trade is going to work out for them. But there will be an adjustment period. Jimmy Butler, I thought he wasn't as big of a force as he could be, and I think he'll grow into that role. We know that it's Simmons running the show on offense. He'll be dishing it to players like Butler, J.J. Redick, Wilson Chandler, and, of course, Joel Embiid. So, I think it might just be one of those games where they lost, but I like the Sixers moving forward. You know who they play next, Jeff? They play the Utah Jazz. They host the Utah Jazz, so it might be the team that the doctor ordered for them.
The team that the doctor ordered. I'm going to write you a prescription for the Utah Jazz. Please take it very diligently.
The Sixers play the Jazz, the Hornets, and the Suns in their next 3. I think we'll get a better idea of what they are in those 3 games. But how about the team that Jimmy Butler left?
Yeah, I didn't hear much about them all this whole season. Get it? Because I have. The Timberwolves continue.
The Timberwolves, yes. So the T-Wolves, they played their first game last night without Butler, and they win. 107-100.
So the team with Jimmy Butler loses, and the team that lost Jimmy Butler wins.
Yes, 107-100 as they defeat the Pelicans. And you know what? Covington, his first game in a Timberwolf jersey, he has 41 minutes played. So he leads the team in minutes played, 13.7 rebounds. Also, Saric, his first game too, coming over in that Jimmy Butler trade. He comes off the bench for the Wolves, 9 points, 3 boards, and assist. But really, the story of this game was Karl Anthony Towns, another big game, 25 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 assists. Wiggins chips in with 23 and 6. He also had a big dunk at the end of the game to kind of seal that game and give the Timberwolves their 6th win of the season. So, what do you think about the first game for Minnesota without Jimmy Butler? Do you think that they might actually be better without him?
Well, I think they got the drama out of their team, and I think that will help them benefit in the future because I think Wiggins and Towns really enjoy playing with each other, and I think Towns is feeling better that Butler's now gone, and there's not really a mutiny in the locker room anymore. And I think that's what's benefiting them the most is that they just have no more drama outside the court. They can just focus on the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, say what you want about Karl Anthony Towns, but the relationship between Butler and Towns was obviously broken, and something needed to change. What I did like from last night's game is point guard Jeff Teague. He had 14 assists to go along with his 14 points. That's a really, really solid
I love when they
effort.
match.
Yeah, it's a really, really solid performance from a point guard, and you can get 14 assists. And, you know, overall, the Timberwolves, they were 41% shooting, 43 from 3. But, yeah, it was just a nice collective effort. Again, you got a guy like Covington who came in his first game, 41 minutes. He was 3 of 7 from 3, and he'll be that guy. He'll be that guy that provides that 3-and-D type player, right? He'll be the guy that covers the other team's best wing player, and then he'll knock down threes when he's called upon. So a nice start to the post-Jimmy Butler era for Minnesota. Now, moving on, a couple other games that happened last night.
Can I ask you one quick question real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Do you see the Timberwolves still making the playoffs?
I didn't see them making the playoffs, and I still don't see them making the playoffs.
Okay.
The Celtics, speaking of playoffs, they're a team that has struggled so far this year, but they get a big win last night. They win by 29 points against the Bulls, 111-82 for Boston. So now they're kind of on the right track. They're 8-6 now. Kyrie Irving had 17 points. What do you make of Boston going forward? Do you think that they're getting through their early season struggles?
Yeah. Like I said before, there's a lot to go around when it comes to your slumps in the early. Better to have the slumps early in the season than at the end of the season. And it looks like the Celtics are still trying to find that niche. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're trying to find that, like, what can we do to make ourselves better than everybody else? They have the talent for it. They just need to find what it needs to be done to win more games, to make a statement. They made this statement against Chicago, but again, Chicago is a very poor team at the moment with lack of talent. And when they face the big teams like Golden State and Houston and Denver is now one of those big teams that's dominant now, they really need to step up the game, and that's where the tests come in.
Yeah, so you talked about the Celtics are still trying to find themselves, find their identity, and a big part of that was injuries last year, right? So Kyrie Irving was hurt for most of the second part of the season. We know that Hayward was hurt for about 99.9% of the season last year. Hayward still really hasn't found it. He played 29 minutes. He scored 11 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He was only 1 for 4 from 3, 4 of 12 overall. He's really struggling, Jeff. Are you concerned yet about him?
That injury was pretty darn nasty, and he's not going to come back 100% the same way again. You know what I mean? So bottom line is, give him more time. That injury was one of the most gruesome things you can watch. So yeah. I'm going to say give him half the season, then you can start saying, are you worried about him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You got to give him some time to come back because it was a pretty devastating injury. I'm just wondering if he's kind of reached a plateau in his recovery, if that makes sense. Because it doesn't seem like he's progressing. Maybe he's still working things out. I don't know if it's a physical thing or a mental thing, but it seems like there is an issue there. But Celtics seem to be on the right track. Moving on, the Wizards, they crushed Cleveland.
Talk about a struggling team.
Yeah, but the Wizards are now 5-9. The Cavs are 2-12 as they get blown out again. Bradley Beal 20 points, so an easy win over there for Washington. The Heat beat the Nets 120-107. Brooklyn's missing LeVert, who obviously suffered that terrible injury. It's their first game without him, so Miami wins 120-107. Tyler Johnson had a season-high 24 in that game. Two interesting games that happened last night. Two upsets that happened. Detroit beats Toronto 106-104. What do you make about that?
I think that's very surprising. Toronto has been kind of on a tear, and losing that game kind of almost stops momentum dead in its tracks now. Yeah,
absolutely. Detroit, they've had a good start to their season. They're 7-6 now. Blake Griffin, 30 points, 12 boards. Drummond had 11 points and 14 rebounds. Just a nice all-around game by Detroit. It's a big win. At Toronto, not an easy place to play. Kawhi Leonard, 26 points, 9 rebounds. So he had a good game. But Detroit, I think, went toe-to-toe with them and got the W. So nice win there. And moving on, maybe the most notable game of the night in terms of upset. The Grizzlies beat Milwaukee. Memphis Grizzlies continue their hot streak to start the season. They are 8-5 now. They win 116-113. Marc Gasol, and this is a center in the NBA in 2018, 12 three-point attempts. He made 6. He finishes the game with 29 points. What do you think about a center attempting 12 threes?
Kind of absurd. No. Very absurd. But he scored 6 of them, you say, correct?
Yeah, he had 18 shots and 12 shots that he attempted were threes.
Okay, maybe not all. A majority of your shots should not be threes, but hey, he made 6 of them, so he went 50% from the threes. That's impressive.
Yeah, and Mike Conley pitched in with 26. Do you see Memphis as a playoff team?
It's a possibility. It's a strong possibility. They're playing
8-5,
well.
so they've been really good.
It's not. It wouldn't surprise me if they made it to the playoffs, but again, it's like
really, it wouldn't surprise you?
It wouldn't surprise me if they got a late seed. Like whoever gets the late seeds, like 6 to 8, won't really surprise me because it's so close every time. But what would surprise me is them going deep into the playoffs. Or
I think both of us, we didn't have them making the playoffs, right?
Well, we didn't have a lot of teams that are actually technically in the playoff hunt at the moment.
Right.
So
it would be somewhat surprising.
Yeah, but not. But I could see it coming.
Conley and Gasol, they missed a lot of last year, especially Conley. So having them back is huge. But I really didn't see them being this good. We'll see if they can keep it up. But man, they have some impressive wins so far. It wasn't like this was their first impressive win. They've beaten the Nuggets. They've beaten the Sixers. They've now beaten the Bucks. They've beaten the Jazz. They're winning big games, Jeff. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. They're no question about it. They're winning some key games.
That was just November, by the way.
But, something happens when it's when it hits the middle of the season, when it hits after the All-Star break, something changes. And this is where that test is going to be the most. The most test, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That's where the test is really going to begin, right after that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can start. It's great to start great now. It's a smart idea to start great now, no doubt about it. But I think the most crucial thing is finishing.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot stress that enough. Finish with a side of finish.
OKC beats the Knicks 128-103. Paul George, 35 points. The Thunder, they've kind of weathered the storm of that tough start to the season. They're now 9-5, so they're obviously heading in the right direction. The Knicks, though, Jeff, are not heading in the right direction. They are now 4-11.
Surprising no one.
Yeah, they are now 4-11. They have now lost 3 straight. It looks like another very disappointing season for the Knicks, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's bad.
Yeah, this team just lacks a lot of talent. I mean, Hardaway Jr. again leads them in scoring. I don't know. He just seems like he's another guy, but for them, he's their best player. I am worried about Nick Latina, the point guard who was a rookie last year, 4 points off the bench, 21 minutes, 4 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. That's just not getting it done. Man, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel for New York, but for OKC, you got to think, hey, maybe they're the team that can, I don't know, be a top 2, top 3 team in the West, considering the Rockets' tough start and the Jazz' tough start, wouldn't you say?
Well, the thing is with OKC is I don't know what to make of them right now. They're very to me. Like, Russell Westbrook's playing not at the level he usually plays at. Paul George is kind of struggling. They don't have they don't have depth in their bench, in my opinion. This team just seems like there's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see what you're saying there, but they are 9-1 in their last 10 games, so they've really righted the ship.
Yeah, I know they've been playing well right now, but how they started really showed some problems, no?
Right, but do you think that they're closer to the team that how they've been playing recently, or do you think that they're more the team that they started off with a poor start at 1-4?
I still think they're more closer to the poor start at 1-4 than they are at the 9-1.
Really?
Just because, I don't know. I have this hunch. I can't explain it, but I just think this team is just
not as good.
Something's not there. I can't put my finger on it, but something is missing with this team.
Right now, they're tied with Denver for the 3rd spot in the West, and Portland is only 1 game ahead of them.
I still Portland's great. Denver's an unexpected team that might be even elite. But with the Thunder, man, but the thing is, when they lose a game or they lose 2 games, it snowballs more than other teams.
Mm-hmm.
They started with no wins for a while.
Yep, and then now they can't lose.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they're on a 2-game winning streak, but they won 7 in a row, then they lost, and now they won 2 in a row.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying is once they lose 2 in a row again, which might happen, they have streaks, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the good teams have good streaks and not bad streaks. You know what I'm saying? But when they have bad streaks, they play horrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, even when Westbrook isn't playing or he's getting rested. George, last night, 35 points.
For a second, I thought you said he's getting arrested. I'm like, what? Wait, when did this happen?
No, getting rested. So, all right. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, an interesting situation that happened in college basketball that we need to talk about.
And 2 teams you would not expect either. So we'll be right back right after this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, final segment of the day. And we're going to college basketball. I'm sure a lot of you have seen what happened on social media, but Pittsburgh State and in Nichols College, there was an incident that happened. Pittsburgh State's Kewan Platt intentionally gave a very disgusting elbow to Nate Tenaglia, and it was absolutely intentional. There was no argument in between the two. He shot the three, and then Platt goes out of nowhere, just walks up to him very casually, and then socks him right in the face with an elbow to the nose, to the face. Could have done some serious damage. Looked like he played the rest of the game, fortunately.
Yes.
And surprisingly.
Tenaglia did. Platt was ejected.
Platt, for obvious reasons. And this was just awful. The aftermath of this, the Pittsburgh State was apologetic. They posted on social media and made a outgoing letter apologizing for his actions. They have suspended him indefinitely and banned him from campus. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about more actions later on. I believe they're having a meeting. The board of that school is to talk about more actions placed on Platt. What are your thoughts on this kid? You saw the video, right?
I did. Yeah, it was a disgusting act of not just unsportsmanlike conduct, but just a disgusting act of being a human, in my opinion. And that might sound harsh, but it wasn't a heat of the moment type thing where, like a Draymond Green, we've seen him in the heat of the moment, elbow somebody or something like that. This was an intentional act of violence that could have had serious ramifications. I mean, we're talking about a straight up boxing, dirty boxing style elbow to the face of a player who's obviously not thinking at all that he might be in the middle of something like that. And, he's shooting a 3-pointer. He's looking up at his shot to see if it goes in or misses, and just gets blindsided.
I think he was expecting him to box him out or something like that.
Close him out, right? Yeah.
It didn't seem like he was going. It wasn't like he full charged him. It was a very casual jog, and then bam, right in the face. That's awful. Why? What makes you do that? And then he casually walks away too.
Yeah, it was just disgusting, and
Absolutely
there's no excuse for it. Again, I just said it. It's not a heat of the moment. It's not a.
The guy didn't say anything mean about his mama.
Even
or
if
something
he did,
like that.
even if he did, even if we find out later that he was trash talking him all game, it doesn't call for that sort of response. It doesn't. It just simply does not. And it was It was Platt's second technical foul of the game. I don't even know what he did previous to that. So. The team has suspended him, like you said. The school has barred him from campus. What do you think they do from here? Because they say that they're looking into further actions, further consequences. Do you think that he still remains on this basketball team or a student of the school?
I don't think. I don't think he's going to make it back to the team. But getting kicked out of school is a very logical answer as well, because that's assault.
Let me ask you this.
That's a felon. That's a felony.
Let me ask you this. If Kewan Platt punched or elbowed, just the same exact situation, elbowed one of his classmates on campus like this and not on a basketball court, would he be expelled?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
So in my
No, I'm agreeing with you.
I know. I know you're agreeing with me. So my argument to Fitchburg State or anybody who disagrees is, What's the difference? Exactly.
Well, because I'm saying in their side of it,
sure.
So I'm not.
You play devil's advocate. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm devil's advocate here. This fights and brawls happen all the time in sports, these little scuffles.
I agree with that.
Especially in football, college football. Iowa State just had that huge brawl with Baylor, and I don't know if any actions were caused for suspensions or anything. Probably, but this one felt more violent. This one felt more unnecessary. This one felt heinous. Football, you guys tackle each other, you get heat in the moment, some cheap shots happen, sure. Especially in basketball.
Punch people in the helmet.
Yeah, but this one was unprovoked. There was no reason. There was no scruffle. There was no action that Nate did.
You're right. Yeah, like we said, even if he trash talked him all game, it doesn't justify what Kewan Platt did.
You could do some shoving, sure. That's you're getting each other's faces. That happens.
Maybe you bump him, right?
Elbowing, elbowing him intentionally without
There was a lot of malice in that.
Yeah, it was all malice.
A lot of intent.
It was all malice.
Intent to injure, intent to harm. He should be arrested, no?
That is assault. Absolutely, he should be arrested. Like a lot of players, like on social media, have said that. Stephen A. Smith said, "Oh, he should be absolutely arrested." Isaiah Thomas.
I think he should be charged with a crime. I honestly believe that. But for Fitchburg State, I think they need to take a stand and not only kick him out, but they need to expel him from the school, revoke his scholarship, obviously, and let him on his way. Because I don't care. I don't even know how good Kewan Platt is for this team, if he's one of their better players or not. But you simply cannot have this type of media coverage. Nobody knew who your school was, and now everybody knows that you're the school of the kid who had the cheapest of cheap shots that they might have ever seen. So You can't do it. You can't have him. You got to get rid of him.
And you are only known. Your school is now only known for this one incident. No one's heard of your school since then nationally, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the huge nail in the coffin for this kid is you just made this college famous for all the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And again, devil's advocate, yes, fights happen in school, fights happen in games. That's common, unfortunately. But this one was like, he literally just walked, it was like he just walks up randomly to a guy and hits him in the face.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't understand why he did it. And he wasn't even like, it didn't look like it was obviously a lot of malice, no apologetic whatsoever. And
I mean, I'm sure at some point we'll hear an apology, right? Like,
well, he's probably gonna be forced one,
right? Like it'll be a written
but how
thing.
he hit him and how he walked away from the foul or the assault was he did not care who saw it because it was right in front of the ref. Two refs. One, it was sandwiched in between two refs.
I'm surprised that Nate Tenaglia finished the game, to be honest with you.
It was probably one of those hits that, like, fortunately, he did not hit him in a place where it was, like, a bone was fragile. You know what I mean? Like, maybe in the like, maybe the forehead where...
Kid can take a punch, I'll tell you that.
Well, the thing is, the forehead is, like, the strongest part of the skull. Maybe he hit him there, and it just gave him a little bruise, you know? Nothing too serious. But still, it's still a huge hit in the face, so no question about it.
I hate to end this podcast for today on that note, but, hey, it is what it is. Sometimes...
Hey, Nate, we have nothing but respect for you, buddy. That's all I gotta say.
Keep shooting those threes, bro.
And you made that three too. Remember that he made that 3-pointer.
Keep shooting those threes.
And
don't
it was
worry
a swoosh.
about.
I'm gonna make that. And he made it a swoosh.
Something tells me that Nate Tenaglia is gonna get extra referee protection for the rest of the season.
I hope so.
All right. Well, we're out of here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tune us in on Tuesday for another basketball podcast. But tomorrow we got football, we got fantasy football, and we got sports. Please tune in to those, and we will see you next time.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.